Hey, this is Carlos Cavallo. Welcome back to Dating Secrets to Unlock His Heart. Today we're going to talk about 5 relationship tips for smart women. That's right, smart women like you. Hey, you've got your life together and you want more than just an average romance. You want a relationship that fulfills you and makes your heart sing. You want a man that doesn't run away at the first sign of a serious commitment, right? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here. You also need to know the stuff that the other women only think they know. So let's drop the bomb with the relationship tip number 1, which is recognize that your relationship is going to go through stages. The first stage is the crush stage, where everything is awesome. Go ahead, you can sing it. Everything is awesome, and it seems like this is it. But then the next stage comes along, the bliss of connection. You talk a lot more, share intimate details, you talk about your likes and dislikes, you share your Netflix queue. Love is developing fast. And then comes the rude awakening. That's your first disagreement, and hopefully your first makeup sex, but And then, of course, the next phase, which is the shaping phase. This is where you start to mold into his expectations, and he's doing much of the same as that you are. And you figure out how to make your relationship into a relationship with a capital R. But the mark of maturity is knowing that these phases are waiting for you in any relationship. It's not like it was when you were a teenager. It's up to you to handle them. That leads us to relationship tip number 2. Use the force, Leia. The truth is that a guy is deeply influenced by his peer group. He's gonna heed advice from his friends and other guys in his life, which means you want to be in good with them. Yep, you're gonna have to make sure that the dudes like you. Now, what if you don't like them or they're douchebags? Well, in that case, you're gonna have to seriously rethink that relationship, especially if you want to try and pry them out of their clutches. Could be a tough thing to do. Now, relationship advice numero 3 is support his drives. You got to realize that a man is driven by 2 primary forces in his life. The first is he wants sex. This is a channel to his love and loyalty. Even if it seems superficial to you at first as a woman, it's not. It's just a different way to feel the same thing you want to feel, love and acceptance. His sex drive is really the fuel of his ambition and the momentum that he has for life. He also wants peace. That's the other prime mover for a man. It's a state of contentment that equates to happiness. And he's always seeking this peace, even if it's in the middle of chaos. So what does knowing this do for you? Well, it helps you to help him get what he wants, which in turn helps him to help you get what you want. And of course, everybody wins. If you keep him satisfied sexually, you'll find that you can break down the barriers within him emotionally that make you feel at a distance. And this brings me to the next tip, number 4, keep it positive. This is the pattern I see with many relationships, and it's enough to give anyone heartache. All relationships have come together with this positive vibe, but then things kind of change after a while. Some negativity starts to slide in. Whatever the reason, a certain level of disrespect starts to creep in there, and you can't let that happen. You ever spent time with a couple where they just seem to be together because they're, barely tolerating each other? It's not fun. In fact, it's a torture to hang out with couples like this, and we start to avoid them if we can. Look, the more desperate we feel this craving for love, the harder it is to often put aside our own points of view to see this perspective. And that, neither men nor women are the enemy. We're just 2 factions that have a communication gap to overcome. And even though you should be working at all times to get closer to him, you should heed my relationship tip number 5, stay close but separate. Now this one feels a little counterintuitive, especially if you're desperately trying to pry your way into his heart, but it's one of the most effective strategies a woman can use. In fact, it's really the only one that really works to make him want you. It's easy to lose sight and think that if you can just weave your life into his as close as possible, that you'll get the love relationship you want. Unfortunately, if you do that wrong, it scares him off. He'll feel a strange kind of constriction, kind of like he's being smothered, and that turns into panic that he's losing his freedom instead of gaining a loving partner. You gotta let your relationship breathe. At the very least, keep some separate routines, things that allow you to be separate but together at the same time. And yes, even after marriage, you're gonna need some pockets of separateness like this between you in order to feel like you're still 2 separate human beings. Remember, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It doesn't equal 1 either, which is kind of codependent and not very good for a relationship. It actually equals 3. The one that you are, the one that he is, and the third, which is that wonderful relationship you create together. Now, if you want a guy to make things official, you want him to take that next step of commitment, you have to know what a guy needs. You have to know what makes him ready to really connect at a heart-to-heart level with you. Do you know what that is? Do you know what makes him desire you and bend over backwards to please you? Well, you can find out more by going over to datingadviceguru.com/connection code. That's where I'm going to explain the code that makes a man commit to you. That's datingadviceguru.com/connection code. And I'll talk to you again soon. This is Carlos Cavallo from datingadviceguru.com/connection code.